Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply the transfers. Well, on the cylinders I am anyway. I'm going to put the lining on the cylinders. I'll be putting the rest of the transfers on later, but I thought I'd do this before I paint those bits that are going to be brass. The smoke box handrail, the whistle, and the cab window trims or rims, whatever you choose to call them. So I thought I'd put the transfers on for the cylinders first. The transfers are here. Here are the rest of them anyway. And the transfers are made by DTB Models. Just thought I'd mention that in case you were interested and wanted to know who that was made by. So the transfers are in here, the ones for the cylinders, in this tub of water. So I'm just going to leave them to soak, and then I will apply them on the cylinders. But I'll only show putting the one on, and I'll do the other one off camera. Okay, so those transfers have gone on very nicely. As I'll just show you. Very pleased with them. Nice little transfers indeed. So I highly recommend the transfers from DTB Models. So now we can move on to painting some of those parts on the model brass. Okay, so you know which parts I'm going to be painting brass, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But what I'm going to use is, I'm going to use Revel 36194 Gold. Now, they do a brass shade of paint, which I was going to use, but I thought that this gold one would be more appropriate to use, because looking at the photos of the locomotive in real life, photos I've taken personally and other photos on the internet, those parts I was going to paint gold, but brass are actually a gold colour, so this is more appropriate to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir the paint up using a brush, and I'm going to paint them on, well, at least most of the bits on, using a cocktail stick to get to areas where it's going to be hard to do it with a brush. Okay, so I've now finished painting the window trims, the whistle and the handrail on the smoke box. The window trims on the back, now originally I did try using masking tape by placing it along the back of the cab and then drawing around the rear windows. That didn't work, so instead I just used a cocktail stick and gently painted around the trims there, and that's worked very well. There's the whistle on the front window. Excuse my stuttering, the front window trims. And of course the handrail on the smoke box. So I'm very pleased with how that's looking. So next we are going to paint the inside of the cab. Okay, so next we are going to paint the inside of the cab interior, which the cream paint has just arrived. And this is the humble acrylic paint that I have here. And this is the BR cream. So I'm going to be using this to paint the inside of the cab. So the inside of the cab has now been painted cream. As you can see, it's gone very well. I've also painted just under the roof there. Didn't need to, but I have. Also, something I did do off camera, I replaced the cylinder lining transfers from the bigger ones for the smaller ones here. The reason I've done that is because because originally to paint under the cab there, just under there, I had the model turned upside down and one of the transfers peeled off. And so when I went to get some water to reapply the transfer, there was a gust of wind that blew the transfer out of the shed. And it's gone onto the floor somewhere outside, never to be seen again, because I have spent quite a bit of time looking and I can't find it, so I had to use these transfers instead, which are the slightly smaller ones for the cylinders. But you know, I do actually quite like these, and the Loco in real life does have smaller lining on the cylinders, so I do really like the lining on these cylinders now. In fact, I think I might actually prefer it. So we'll leave those to set. Quick update, I have realigned that one cylinder transfer there. So now I've placed it down a bit more, because it was a little bit higher than the transfer on the other side. So that's better now, I think. So I'll leave that to set, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the project. All that needs to be done now is to add a smokebox door, add a Westinghouse pump, add cab interior detail, add the rest of the transfers, and then this model is done. So what I thought I'd do now is I'm going to put the transfers on the back of the cab here. I'll leave the transfers for the car bunkers and the saddle tank later. And of course the sides here of the cab, I'll save those for later as well. So here are the transfers. So you don't have to use scissors for this, but I'm going to use scissors to do it anyway. But you can use a craft knife or even a scalpel. It's up to you really what you choose to use. So I'm going to cut out this transfer and this transfer here. So I'll get the scissors. I do apologise if you can't see this as clearly, but you know. So there's one. So I'll put that into the water for it to soak. These transfers, the ones for the cab size, can go back in my resealable bag. Then we need this one just here. So that one's now done, so we'll put that into the water. Leave it to soak and then we'll put those transfers on. Right, so we're back and the transfers are now ready to be added on the back of the cab. So I'll add them just now. So I'm using these tweezers to simply lift them out of the tub of water, and I'll use this cocktail stick to apply them. Okay, I'm back and that transfer has been applied. Just getting rid of a few crease marks there. So let's add the other one. Okay, so I've added the transfers on, as you can see. One thing I will point out is that do be careful with these transfers because they can tear quite easily, as you can see there. Sadly that transfer has been torn slightly, but never mind, those things happen. But I might be able to fix it at a later date. But despite that, I am quite pleased with how these transfers have gone on. So it's looking really good. So I think what we'll do now is get those parts ordered that I need for this loco. Smoke box door, cab interior detail and a Westinghouse pump. We'll get those painted up, get them bought, painted up and added on before we add the rest of the transfers, and then this model will be done. Okay, now what I've decided to do is, because it's going to be a while before I can get a smoke box door, a Westinghouse pump and some cab interior detail to finish the model off, I've decided to add the rest of the transfers. So I can get the transfers done out of the way. There is one small thing I have done to the model. And I have touched up the... well, I do need to do a bit of touching up on the cab there, as you can see. On the front there. But I have painted the whistle guard there black. I've looked at photographs of the locomotive in real life in this livery and the whistle guard is black, so I've painted that on the model so it matches the real loco. So with that transfer now in place, I can now move on to adding the rest of the transfers. Right, well it's been well over a month now since I last did anything to do with this project. I mean, to you it's not going to be like that at all, it's just going to be a matter of seconds at least, but no, trust me, it has been well over probably at least 2 months or so now since I last did anything to do with this project. So, a few things I want to talk about. First of all, I have painted over the number plate that was on the back of the bunker, which was, if you remember, was down here. I painted over that because now Talyllyn did have a number plate on the back of the cab when it was painted in the BR Line black livery and the Talyllyn Railway green livery. But I mistakenly thought that it was there on the red livery. However, when I look back at my own photos and even my own videos I have on YouTube of the real locomotive and looking at other photos I saw on the internet, the number plate is actually absent on the loco, on the real loco, at least wearing this livery, so I decided to paint over it. Which I have to say, I think that does look a bit better now. It looks more like the real thing. I mean, I did think that the number plate was there, especially since I went to the trouble in trying to keep it on the model, but never mind. It was just a mistake. We live and learn. Also, another thing. Now, 3 of the transfers, mainly the ones on the sides of the cab here, and this one, have actually since got ruined. Now, what I did was, I tried experiments. I mean, I kind of wish I had just experimented on the one transfer, being this one down here, and leaving the rest of them, but oh well. But what happened was, I tried experimenting using Humbrol gloss varnish to simply put on the transfers. But then I realised that there was white blemish marks forming on various areas of the transfers. Now, I just assumed that these could just be rubbed off and that they'd be fine, but they kept reappearing on the transfers, and I eventually ended up tearing the transfers. So I got in touch with DTB Models about this and asked if I could get a new set of transfers, which I am still waiting for them to be back into stock. Which, I mean, I got in touch with them in March, I believe it was. It's now technically May. So there's no telling how long it will take before I do get a new set of transfers to replace those transfers, the ones that got ruined. But what you're seeing on the ends of the cab here and down here, what I did was, because up till then the model was about 95% finished, but then it took a step backwards when that incident happened with the transfers. So to take the project back to where it was before that incident happened, what I did was I just simply printed some transfers off on the computer on paper, and then I just basically PVA glued them on. I know that seems a little bit crude, but it's only temporary until I get that set of transfers. But you know, these paper ones, they don't look too bad. You know, they're still pretty much identical to the transfers themselves, even though I did have to go over them. Well, that one there you're seeing on the back, just here, I had to use the scalpel to cut a hole in the middle to preserve the detail there that you can see on the back of the cab. But for these on the sides of the cab, that one and this one, obviously when I printed them out, the red was a lighter shade, a much lighter shade than what you're seeing on the model. So to try and make it blend in, still make it look like it's the same shade of red, I basically went over the red area with a red gel pen. So now it does look much better now. But then again, bear in mind, they are still temporary, regardless. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with this now. I mean, it's a shame that happened with the transfers, but oh well, we live and learn, we make mistakes and we learn from them. Not to worry, because it is being sorted. But that means for the time being I have this model mostly completed when I'm running it. So that's about it for now.